Dr. Mustafa Barghouti has become a Palestinian icon, which I kind of knew when I first met him in a field in the West Bank. I don't know, 35 or more years ago, maybe nearer to 40. Dr. Mustafa, welcome back to the mother of all talk shows. I was making the point earlier that the mother of two parishioners of the Holy Family Church in Gaza rather confounds the narrative of Western propagandists in multiple ways, doesn't it?
Sure. And what happened there is drastic. First of all, it's nice to be with you, George, again. And I wish you the best of luck in your show. And what happened in this church in Gaza is totally drastic. A mother and a daughter who were in the church were shot at by Israeli snipers and killed. 7 others were also shot and injured. And it's not the first time this church is attacked. It was bombarded before, and that took the lives of many people, about 20. So we are talking here about an Israeli behavior which knows no limits, has no limits, and for them, no human being has a value in Palestine, whether it's Muslim or Christian or anybody else. And the big question here is to the Western countries that claim to protect human rights and advocate for international law, and who are allowing Israel to commit all these crimes without any kind of accountability. 3 war crimes in parallel: a war crime of genocide, the war crime of ethnic cleansing, and the war crime of collective punishment. Up till now, by the way, the number of Palestinians killed, if we count the people under the rubble, is no less than 26,000 people, including 10,000 children. This is a shame for all these Western governments who have supported Israel, provided Israel with weapons, and who continue to reject the idea of a complete and total ceasefire immediately in Gaza.
Of course, this all crystallized in the week when the Israeli army shot dead 3 people walking towards them waving a white flag, killed them in cold blood, only to discover they were escaped Israeli hostages. In other words, whoever walks towards them waving a white flag is there to be murdered in cold blood. It's only bad luck from the point of view of the Israeli occupation force that they turned out to be Israelis.
Absolutely, but the meaning of what has happened is very important. It showed to the whole world how Israel would treat any Palestinian, because their assumption is that these 3 people were Palestinians. So even if a Palestinian is trying to surrender, waving a white flag and completely undressed, he will still be shot. These people were without clothes. I mean, I think if they took off their clothes to show that they don't carry any weapons, knowing the Israeli army, and they thought that this would help. And they used they waved with white flags, thinking the Israelis would not shoot them. But even this, one of them screamed in Hebrew, it seems, and still they shot them. They shot them because the Israelis have no respect for the human life of any Palestinian, and they thought they were Palestinians. And actually that reminds us with another case which happened not long time ago in the West Bank, actually in the city of Jerusalem, when there was a military Palestinian operation. 2 Palestinians were killed, and the Israeli army people were shooting at them. And then there was a third Israeli, another Israeli, who kneeled on the ground when he saw that the soldiers are shooting, and he raised his hands and started screaming that he was an Israeli, but they still shot him because they thought he's a Palestinian. So even if a Palestinian supposedly is surrendering, they will still kill him. And that explains, I mean, the other day we had another case in Hebron where a man who is mentally challenged was attacked by Israeli soldiers who beat them and insult him and humiliate him. And then from the distance of 0, one of them shot him in the chest. This is the kind of Israeli behavior towards Palestinians. So what happened with these Israeli soldiers only reveals the kind of attitude and rules that this army has. And then their chief of staff appears on TV and says something so silly, saying that he wishes there will be another opportunity so that the Israeli army would deal in a different way. Of course, he's thinking of another 3 Israelis who would come out from their hostages. This is, I think the Israeli behavior, the Israeli army behavior is nothing but disgusting when it comes to how much they don't respect human lives and people's lives. And by the way, George, it's important to remind everybody that they have killed already in Gaza 91 journalists, and one of them was killed yesterday or the day before yesterday, who's a Jazeera correspondent, for no reason. He was associating, he was working with a team of first aid with an ambulance, and they shot him, and they shot the other correspondent of Al Jazeera, who was badly injured. This is the kind of behavior of these people.
Now, we talked about what happened in the Holy Family Church. There was another spectacular in a mosque in the West Bank, where Hamas are not in control, and where Israelis took over the mosque. What happened next?
They came into the mosque, they destroyed things, and then one of the soldiers took the microphone and started doing started saying Jewish prayer inside the Muslim site, inside the mosque, knowing that this is a kind of humiliation or insulting to the Palestinian people. Not only that happened, even when some Israeli army people tried to apologize for that and saying that the soldier will be accountable. Today, the Minister of Interior Security, Ben Gvir, the well-known fascist, declared that he's very proud of that soldier who did this thing to the mosque in Jenin. As you can see, it's a whole system. It's not just the behavior of one or another. And today, the West Bank is subjected to terrible harassment by Israeli soldiers, by Israeli policemen, and by Israeli settlers. It looks like every soldier and every settler thinks that they have a green light to shoot Palestinians or at least harass them. And that explains why up till now we had more than 300 Palestinians killed. Today, 5 of them were killed in Nur Shams camp in Tulkarem, and 22 of those were killed by Israeli illegal settlers who are behaving and attacking Palestinians with the protection of the Israeli army.
Now, Netanyahu is beginning to pay a price with his own public over the hostage story. It's reported that the head of the Mossad has been dispatched back to Qatar. I don't know how they'll explain the systemic murder of Al Jazeera staff in the last 70 days, but he's gone back to Qatar to resume negotiations about a prisoner exchange. Do you expect anything might come from that?
Only if Israel accepts a complete and total ceasefire. Without that, there will be no exchange of prisoners. And without that, because Hamas understands the game, Netanyahu and his crowd want to get back all their hostages, as they call them, and many of them are actually prisoners of war, if you consider that they are military people who were arrested or detained during military action. So they are prisoners of war. That's how they should be called if Netanyahu is declaring a war on Gaza. But the game that Israel plays is that they want to get back all their hostages and then continue the destruction and attack on Gaza, trying to achieve what they haven't been able to achieve, which is total ethnic cleansing of Gaza Strip and pushing people out of Gaza to Egypt. This has been the original plan. This is really the real plan of Netanyahu. Hamas, on the other side, understands the situation and says there will be no exchange of prisoners anymore till Israel stops the war. Not just temporary ceasefire, but a permanent and guaranteed ceasefire, which means ending this military action against the people of Gaza. If they do so, then there will be a possibility for exchange of prisoners. And it could be in one of two forms. Either all Israeli prisoners will return home safe in exchange of releasing all the Palestinian prisoners in Israeli jails, whose number is now more than 8,000 people, or that could be partial, which means part of the Israeli prisoners could be exchanged with a certain part of Palestinian prisoners. That is the only way to get out of this. Netanyahu has failed, and under the pressure of families of prisoners, he is now accepting to send his envoy. But don't misunderstand Netanyahu. Netanyahu might use that just as a maneuver to cover up his position, because this man is capable of killing all the Israeli hostages. He doesn't care about them. He killed 19 of them through bombardment, and the 3 others who were shot by the Israeli army yesterday. Netanyahu doesn't care about them. All Netanyahu cares about is to stay in power, and that's why he wants this war to continue. Once the war stops, he will go to jail. Why? For 2 reasons. First of all, he will be dismissed from his position as prime minister because of his failures on the 7th of October, his military failure, his intelligence failure, and his political failure. But also because there are 4 cases of corruption against Netanyahu, and one of them is in process now. So from the position of prime minister, he has only one way to go to: the jail and the prison. And that's why this man is ready to commit any crime to have this war continues, and even to expand it to the West Bank if he could, or to Lebanon as well.
Now, in the hypothetical, your relative, my friend Marwan Barghouti, he's number 1 on the list of prisoners to be exchanged. What would be the consequences of his release? I ask you this in no wish to sow division at this critical time, but most friends of Palestine recognize that the Palestinian leadership badly needs renovation, and Marwan Barghouti would be the obvious method by which that renovation could begin. You have anything to say on that?
Sure. Marwan is my friend too, and we're even not only friends, but we're also relatives, as you know. And I knew him very well, and he's a patriotic man, and he is also a man who believes, as I do, in national unity of Palestinians. So if he is released, hopefully, he will help put Fatah on the right track and hopefully liberate it from the domination of the Palestinian Authority, which has dragged Fatah into a difficult position, really. And maybe he will help in us in bridging the gaps between all Palestinian groups and create a true national unity, and also in creating a collective Palestinian leadership, national unity, national unified leadership, and a unified collective leadership which can encounter the problems we are facing today and this huge threat to Palestinians, which is larger, in my opinion, than what happened in the Nakba in 1948. Because the real goal of this Israeli attack on Palestinians is really the liquidation of the Palestinian cause completely. So, yes, I hope he will be released. I hope also Ahmad Saadat from PFLP will be released, and all other prisoners. Some of them, like Nael Barghouti, my relative also, has been in jail for 43 years. This is the longest ever time in prison for any political prisoner.
Amen. Finally, Doctor, and I'm grateful for your time. I know you have a lot on your plate. David Cameron and Anna Baerbock appear to have moved the British and German positions on a ceasefire. I don't know if you're fully across that. I'm not entirely myself. But on the headline, it looks like the British and German governments have moved. Is that significant in your view?
It is very significant, of course. From supporting Israel 100% and totally, now there is a change by the foreign minister of Germany as well as the one from Britain. In the article they've written, I think in the Sunday Times, in which they've expressed this view. But that's not enough, because I'm not sure that the Chancellor of Germany is in that position yet. I'm not sure if Sunak also is in that position yet. So we need to see a clearer statement, not only by these two foreign ministers in an article, but a clear position of both governments that they support immediate, permanent ceasefire, not just temporary ceasefire and not just humanitarian ceasefire, but a permanent end of this terrible war and this terrible aggression on the Palestinian people. We need to see that. But so far, Britain, with the United States, had the worst record in the United Nations, especially the veto that they've used several times. And also in the last UN Security Council resolution, at the United Nations, Britain did not support the resolution, abstained. And the United States, of course, vetoed it. So now we need pressure on the United States as well. And I hope that we will see an official statement by both German and British governments saying that they've changed their mind, because an article is not enough.
Dr. Mustafa Barghouti, thank you as always for that insight, for those words of wisdom. Dr. Barghouti from Palestine, from the West Bank.